Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting. Tonight we are starting with two public hearings. I will be reading the public hearing statement, but it covers both public hearings. So we'll talk about public hearing number 1, and then followed by public hearing number 2, and of course, the public is welcome to comment on those.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. I have to excuse myself.
Thank you. That's just for the first one?
Just for the first.
Okay. So we'll remember to call you back in.
Maybe.
These public hearings are being held pursuant to Section 465 of the Local Government Act. During the public hearings, anyone who believes that his or her interest is affected by the proposed developments will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaws that are the subject of this hearing. All information, correspondence, petitions, or reports that have been received concerning the subject bylaws have been made available to the public. Council may ask questions of staff and public, but once the public hearing is over, no new information can be received. Council debate on the bylaw will take place when the bylaw is considered after the conclusion of the public hearing, so that will be once we start our regular council meeting. At that time, any questions of staff will be only for clarification purposes. I will be inviting the public to come forward and present their comments. Speakers are asked to state their name and address for the record and are encouraged to limit their remarks to 5 minutes and should include all of the relevant information in their presentation. Further opportunity will be afforded for all persons to speak a second or third time once all persons have had an opportunity to speak. Director of Development Services, could you introduce the first item, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I can. So this is an application to rezone the property located at 13607 Rumball Avenue from RSD1 to RSD1I intensive zone to facilitate a 2-lot subdivision. So the official community plan designates this area as appropriate for intensive residential development, and the property owner has indicated that they're willing to provide the amount stipulated in the zoning bylaw to allow the smaller minimum lot size that is allowed in that particular zone. So I actually have, as the subdivision approving officer, recently issued a preliminary layout approval letter contingent upon council approval of the rezoning. Fairly straightforward. I can read the recommendation if you like.
Sure.
That zoning bylaw amendment 13607 Rumball Avenue, bylaw 2019-042 be considered.
Okay, thank you. And so we'll be considering that later on tonight. We would like to hear if there is anybody in the gallery that would like to speak at this first one of two public hearings. Please come forward to the podium and state your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Joel Panton. I live at 13607 Rumball Ave. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, on reviewing our rezoning application to the 2-lot subdivision. This subdivision, of course, by which Corey Gain has stated, is supported by our OCP and the zoning. Since purchasing the property, we have started renovating the existing home, allowing for beautification of the property that was poorly taken care of for many years. I have given you all photos here. With the top photo is actually when we purchased the property before renovation, and then the bottom 2 photos are with renovations that we haven't fully finished yet. So we're just trying to show that the area that it was, we have kind of made it a little bit more beautiful and a little bit better in that area. We understand that some residents may find development a tough subject, especially downtown or in general. And Summerland is great for many reasons, and we know that some residents would rather see it untouched. And I do believe with this subdivision, it will not take away from our breathtaking community, but only add to it. Directly affecting my neighborhood, we would see beautification of the area, generating higher property values. These benefits to the neighborhood are just scratching the surface, as they also share the benefits of the district, such as generating housing in the downtown core, could provide a stimulus boost to our downtown core businesses, and generating income through DCCs, property taxes, help residents get amenities or infrastructure that we may be missing or needing updating, and supplying more housing to the residents. As I live on the property, we notice our participation downtown is a lot higher. We walk to breakfast, getting coffee from the Beanery, maple syrup from Maple Rock, and beer from Breakaway, and of course groceries from Nestor's. We find that we leave our cars at home and walk downtown as it's so convenient. If we find it convenient, many will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else care to come forward and speak at the podium? I'll ask for the third time. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to come and speak to the matter before us? All right, I declare the public meeting closed at 6:06. And we will go on to the second public meeting. Again, I direct this over to our Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Oh, and could we get, thank you.
Yes, I'll wait a moment.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
This is the wrong slide. It's because we're double using slides. Here we go.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry for the slide confusion. We're trying to be efficient and reuse slides, so we just need to flip back in our deck a little bit. So the subject property is located at 26405 Garnet Valley Road. This is an application to do a text amendment, a site-specific text amendment, to permit temporary farm worker accommodation. As you may recall, Council considered some amendments to the zoning bylaw to deal with temporary farm worker housing, but that was put aside for our new Development Process Improvement Committee. So it was felt that this particular application would come forward at this time as a site-specific amendment. Should that amendment eventually be made to the base zone itself, this will be redundant. But at this time, we'll look specifically at this particular property. So the applicant is proposing to thanks, Nicole, to renovate an existing structure on the subject property to accommodate the farm worker housing. It's also got some accessory storage in the building as well. So given that it is within an existing building, that bodes well. Obviously, it requires a non-adhering residential use application to the Agricultural Land Commission, and that has been submitted and will be forwarded should you elect to do so. I believe that this is a good example of accommodating farm workers in our community to support our agricultural operations. I can certainly answer any specific questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak to the matter before us in terms of public hearing number 2? Mr. Lorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Steve Lorney, 4809 Monroe. My wife and I are the owners of Okanagan Crush Pad, who own this property, and we've owned it for about the last 7 or 8 years. We submitted a fairly extensive package on this, but if you weren't able to read through everything in the package, I'm just pointing out a couple of highlights. This is on an old horse riding ring. As you can see, it's definitely not, doesn't have agricultural possibilities. We have planted 40 acres of grapes that were organically farming. It's actually an organically certified vineyard now. And we have 8 temporary workers that we now house down in one of our places in Oliver. So we drive them, not every day, but about 3 days a week up here, an hour each way, which makes very little sense at all. And we think we can renovate this to the point where we'll get it passed by the inspectors that look after this sort of thing. And it'll be an unused building put to a very good use. So hoping that you'll see your way clear to saying yes to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I'll ask a second time, is there anybody that would like to come to the podium and speak on this matter? Please come forward.
Hi, Heather Norrish from 27088 Garnet Valley Road. Not necessarily to speak, just had a couple of questions. As when anything tends to happen in a small town, scuttlebutt tends to exaggerate things, and we'd heard that there would be as many as 80 farm workers. Obviously, from the size of the building, I can see that's not the case. What would your top amount?
Excuse me, Heather, if you could direct your questions to us,
Oh, okay.
and then we can forward them to staff when we discuss this after
Okay.
the public hearing is closed.
My simple questions are, what is the top amount of people that will be living in the building? And we had some concerns about other farm workers' areas that had then been turned into, after a while, into rental units. And if that is, and had gotten away with it, as far as we had understood, we're wondering whether or not there will be any follow-up for that, so that it does remain as simply farm workers. And if it's not, if the amount is 8 or 10 people, that's fine. If it is an exorbitant amount more than that, then we are still concerned about the sight lines and stuff and the extra traffic that we would have in our area, in light of the fact that because from Wild Horse out, the previous council did not clean the sight lines on the road, we're still rescuing people out of various fields and corners and what have you. So those are just our concerns, and we just like to get some answers for.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll ask for the third time, is there anybody that would care to speak to this matter?
I'm on 27006, across the road,
And your name, please?
Joe Rio. I didn't necessarily come here with a dispute on anything or too many reservations. I just figured I'd put my voice out there. I've worked up there extensively with these people that are likely to be housed in this, and I have nothing but good things to say about these people. So anyways, I don't have any reservations about having somebody living across the road, and I trust, I've known Steve for a number of years, a few years, and I trust his judgment on what he's going to do with it. So anyways,
Great.
thanks.
Thank you very much for coming up and speaking to us. Anyone else? All right. I will declare this second public hearing closed at 6:14. And we will get on to our regular council meeting. Beginning with any introduction of late items.
There are none, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So approval of the agenda, Council. Councillor Patton, Councillor Van Elfen, all those in favor? Thank you. And adoption of the minutes from January the 13th, our regular afternoon council meeting. Any changes to that? Councillor Holmes.
I submitted a couple
Yes.
already, those were got.
Yes.
We got those?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor, we will be adopting the minutes with, as amended. So just under public comment, there was a misspelling of two people's names. Jim Dime is Tim Dunn, and Janet Grew was Janet Groom.
Great. So adoption of the minutes as amended then, please. Councillor Van Elfen Councillor Patton, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Holmes. And then on to my report. Earlier today, Lori Mullen, our Manager of Recreation, and I had the honor of recognizing 3 of the lifeguards at the district's aquatic center. Asia Curley, Michaela McDougall, and Anna Locke put their CPR and life-saving training into practice on January the 31st and saved a life. Council and district staff join Lori in saying we are so proud of these 3 and all the recreation staff who supported them. They showed incredible teamwork, professionalism, and competence. On January the 29th and 30th, I attended the BC Natural Resources Forum in Prince George. Although our economy is not heavily reliant on resource extraction such as mining or oil and gas, agriculture land is also a natural resource, and our community has a rich agricultural history, and this sector is still economically important to Summerland. Isn't it, Councillor Carlson? I spoke to some of the 5 Northwest BC mayors who, with the Resource Works Society out of Vancouver, have formed a Resource Municipalities Coalition in 2016. Since my discussions with these people, which included on how local governments can protect community watersheds, I have expressed my interest in exploring the possibility of becoming part of a Southern Interior Coalition, perhaps one that covers the Silga region. The Coalition's executive director offered to discuss this possibility at their next executive meeting. So, in our Silga region, we have all 4 of those, maybe not so much oil and gas, but certainly the Trans Mountain Pipeline goes through Clearwater and other areas in our Silga region. Over 1,200 delegates heard from many Indigenous speakers and panelists about what reconciliation means to them and their general openness to collaborating with non-Indigenous governments and private organizations for mutual benefit. Other speakers, including the Premier, spoke about how the forestry sector can regain its economic strength, specifically through implementing a truly sustainable management plan and diversifying forest products such as mass timber. The Premier also spoke about the BC Food Security Task Force and the imminent release of the Future of BC Food System, a report. 80 pages long, it makes 4 key recommendations on how BC can lead the next agricultural revolution and is now available on the province's website if you want to have a look. Last Tuesday, I attended the first Okanagan Basin Water Board meeting of 2020. Highlights include Flynn Rowe is working with UBCO to conduct research on milfoil management in Rocky Mountain ridged mussel habitat, including along the Summerland foreshore. The research is expected to provide answers on whether milfoil management has any significant negative impact on the native mussel. Of interest to our planning department and GIS, the LIDAR data on community watersheds is expected to be available to local government staff by the end of March. These data provide 3D aerial images of our watersheds that can be added to our GIS system. As of February the 5th, 132, this is astonishing, 132 teams have signed up for the Okanagan Basin Water Board's Aqua Hacking Challenge. The challenge is to find technological solutions for one of 5 different water issues. 5 teams will move on to the finals, which are being held in June. OBWB continues to work with the provincial government to enact the Pull the Plug legislation. This is seen as another tool against the transfer of invasive mussels into BC water bodies. The Okanagan Sustainable Water Strategy has been printed, and planning departments, you'll be getting your own copy. I actually will lend you mine until we get ours. And OBWB 2020 grant applications are closed, and our district is supporting the Peachland Watershed Protection Alliance's application for a study in our shared watershed, so shared with the District of Peachland. The project is going to be conducted by UBC Vancouver. And that's it. Over to you.
Okay,
So just as everyone's aware, we've got our budget open house coming up, or community budget open house set for this Wednesday, February 12th, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. With a public presentation at 5:30 p.m. at the Summerland Arena. So at that information session and open house, you'll hear from our finance department around the upcoming budget and the property tax increase of 4% and all the components that make up that, including the range of capital projects that are underway or proposed to be underway for the 2020 year. We've got a busy year coming up, so really looking forward to getting the community out there to give us some feedback before we bring that budget back to council. Also, as part of the evening, we're going to be presenting to the community a number of various initiatives that are the focus of council's strategic priorities over the next few years. The first being our asset management strategy. It's been a focus over the last few years and will be a big component of infrastructure investment and how we invest in our infrastructure over the next few years. So come and find out more about that. Downtown planning and future development. We're looking at kicking off the planning process to get some feedback from the community on what their vision is for the future of the downtown community. We're going to be talking to the community about the Summerland Community Health and Wellness Centre, which includes the Aquatic and Recreation Centre, a future potential partnership with Interior Health and a variety of different partners in the community. So that project will kick off on Feb 12th as well, so we're seeking some direction from the community. We've got updates on a couple of different projects that are moving forward, the solar and battery project and some of our climate action planning, the Affordable Housing Forum, the Business Perspective Survey, and looking for some additional feedback to help inform council's decision around future dog parks, pickleball, and tennis courts. And the final one that we're looking for some feedback on is our new Good Neighbour bylaw, looking at the amalgamation of a number of different bylaws that we currently have in the community as we set the scene for various bylaw services priorities over the coming years. So we've got a fun and interactive night coming up on Wednesday, and we're looking forward to seeing as many people in the community out there as possible. Thank you.
Good, thank you. On to development reports and bylaws. 8.1, development variance permit 19-022 for 12809 Kelly Avenue. Again, Corey, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you may recall, we issued a development permit some time ago for the Hillcrest Village development that is getting very close to completion on Kelly Avenue. And at that time, we considered a variance of the parking bicycle parking requirements. And so, because our bylaw has fairly high requirements for secure bicycle parking, we at that time had entertained a slight reduction to the number of secure parking spaces for bicycles. And once the equipment was actually ordered by the development company, they found that in fact they couldn't fit as many spaces in that secure storage room as they had originally intended. So having another look at that portion of the application, that variance, they're asking for a further reduction of the number of spaces. If council entertains the variance, we will amend the development permit to reflect that reduced number of parking spaces. Rather than 1.8 spaces previous, it'll work out to 1.6 per unit now. So it is interesting to note for you as well that there are a large number of spaces that are also accommodated within the parkade or the underbuilding parking as well. We haven't discussed any external storage at this time, but that might be a possibility if necessity had it, though at this point, obviously, site design didn't take that into consideration, so that would be fairly complicated. So at this point, we think it's a fairly reasonable ask, and therefore are bringing this forward to you for consideration. So the request is to vary the minimum number of Class A bicycle parking spaces from 2 Class A parking spaces per dwelling unit to 1.63 Class A parking spaces per dwelling unit.
Okay. Thank you. Because this is a development variance permit, there is the opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this? All right. Okay. So, council, open to you. Councillor Holmes, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Question. I was wondering if what the developer intends to do if there are more tenants with bicycles than there are bicycle spaces. How would they determine who gets this bicycle space and who doesn't?
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I haven't asked that question. I, as you know, live in one of the other apartment buildings in town, and we in fact have 0 in our building, so I didn't see it as a complication, so I didn't think to ask that question, but it's a reasonable question.
So just follow up. So presumably people would be able to keep their bicycles inside their apartments? I know that's what they do in Europe.
I can perhaps speak to that. Some apartment buildings do allow that. In fact, the building that I reside in does not, because they've had problems with people bringing their bicycles into the hallways and creating a mess, if you will, oil stains and those kinds of things. But certainly I would imagine that if there was a shortfall, that some compensation could be made. Ultimately, it'll be the management company that makes that determination.
Thought I was going to sneeze. Any other questions? Councillor Barkwell.
Yes, if council doesn't approve this variance request, reduction of 15 units, 15 spaces, is it? Where, do they have a place that they can put those? What will they do?
We would have to look at the site plan and see what can be rearranged in order to accommodate them. At this point, we haven't undertaken that exercise, as it seemed like a fairly reasonable ask, considering we'd already varied down to 1.8. So down to 1.6 didn't seem like a very significant change.
Okay, I have Councillor Carlson, and then Councillor Traynor, and then Patton.
I'm wondering how many, if it's known how many non-Class A parking spaces there are. I didn't see that in here. Because I assume that if you just want to park your bike for a couple hours, you don't have to go and lock it in your Class A site. So there will be other bike lots.
Right, there's 80 secure
80,
spaces
okay.
and 78 that are in the parkade area.
So the total,
Is 158, I believe.
the difference between Class A and, is there a Class B? I just wondered if it,
Class B is less secure.
yeah.
And then there's, of
But-
course, the concept of visitor bicycle parking. Usually you have near your front door to accommodate people. Is that the kind that you're speaking of?
Well, yeah, so if I didn't want to go and put my bike in the parkade, how many, is there a need for that, or do we have a bylaw that allows, or says how many other parking spots we need? They need?
Visitor parking spaces for bicycles, I don't believe we address that.
We don't at all, okay.
Councillor Traynor?
I was just going to bring it forward if no one else had questions, but I think Councillor Patton does.
I do as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Madam Mayor? Thank you. To our Director of Development Services. So I noticed in your report that the district's 2019 cycling master plan reduces the number of bike stalls from 1.8 down to 1. So if we were to have the same building built again, would we be only looking at 1 bike stall?
Not at this
Per?
time. Because the cycling master plan has not informed the zoning bylaw. So the zoning bylaw requirement remains. So in due course, when we review the zoning bylaw with respect to the outcomes of the cycling master plan, then absolutely we would expect that that would change. Until that time, we'll have to go through the variance process. So hopefully we can catch up on some of these housekeeping things.
So there is change in the air.
Always change in the air.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have a question, and I'm not really sure if this would be opening a can of worms, as the saying goes, but I'm wondering, I know that we have in our bylaw a certain requirement for parking stalls with any development, including a housing development of this size. I'm wondering if, given the location of the Hillcrest project, the fact that it's downtown, and that we are encouraging active transportation all the time. Just earlier today, we talked about another grant application. I'm wondering if there would be an opportunity, perhaps not late, in this process, but as we're considering moving forward, to be a little more lenient on the number of parking spaces for cars in a move to provide more active transportation, bicycle spaces.
Madam Mayor, I can speak to that just briefly. Obviously, those are all things that we'll look at moving forward. At this time, that is set, and so we're not considering a variance of that. But as part of the negotiation process, when this property was sold, my understanding was the parking was reduced at that time. So
Okay.
there certainly is already some consideration of that, but certainly through the downtown planning process, that might be something we consider for the downtown area. So, good, time will tell.
It's good to hear that, thank you. Councillor Barkwell?
So I was wondering, sort of following up on Councillor Carson's questions, what's the definition of a Class A bicycle parking spot? And is there room to accommodate lesser than Class A if more people need bicycle parking spots?
We would have to get creative, I think, because Class A is secured. It has to be in a locked-off room. So it's difficult to start altering the structure now to create additional locked-off space that's just for that purpose.
Is the parkade going to be a locked parkade?
Yes, but that's considered Class B.
So we don't actually have, we only have 80, 78, it's 80 in the storage room, which would be Class A, and then
Oh,
70.
I see what you mean. I apologize, that was my error, yes.
So we only have
We have 158 spaces in total.
and only 80 of them are Class A.
Right.
And so they're actually asking for a variance to reduce both the total number and the number that are Class A parking spots.
Right, but that was a variance that we previously granted.
Well, I thought
that
the variance was just to reduce down to 176
But-
Class A spaces.
The complement, the split between A and B,
Yeah?
the number of B spaces has not changed, I don't
Okay,
believe.
I see now.
Okay? Just the As. And it's simply a case of, when they bought the racking structures and those things, they just physically didn't fit in that space. So I imagine they're quite robust.
Right, so, so just to be clear, the development permit did not allow for 158 Class A. It
No,
allowed
no.
for 80 Class A.
I believe that
Yeah.
was the intent, yeah.
Okay. So now we're going down to
We've reduced from...
65 Class A, and the
We've-
rest, whatever, unsecured.
We've reduced from I'd have to get all the details out. We're sort of going around in circles. But yeah, of the 158 spaces, 80 were located in the parking storage area, and 78 were on the walls of the parkade. So The applicant is now requesting to eliminate 15 of the 80 spaces in the separate storage locker. This would reduce the overall number from 158 to 143, which takes it down to 1.63 per unit, which is how the zoning bylaw speaks to it. So that's how we need to word the variance. We don't give absolute numbers in the variance, we're varying the standard.
So do you have any other question
Well, the
related
way
to
I
that?
see it
or-
then, that they're going from the original requirement of 176 Class A spaces was what we'd normally required. They got a variance to reduce it to 80 Class A and 78 unsecured. And now we're going down from 80 Class A to 65 Class A and the balance of 78 unsecured. You're in an unsecure area.
I think those numbers are all correct, but as Councillor Patton drew to our attention, if the zoning bylaw had been updated when we adopted the new cycling master plan, we would only be looking for one space per unit. So in fact, we're getting 0.63 additional spaces per unit. So yes, there is a change, and that's why we're having the discussion.
Okay,
I got it.
all right. Any other questions of staff? Councillor Traynor, could you bring that forward then?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. You said the garage, the parkade is locked, right?
I believe that it is
Stated?
secure.
Okay.
I believe so.
So no one else has, Richard?
One more question. Does the cycling master plan, which you say only suggests one parking, does it suggest a secure Class A spot for each bicycle in the cycling master plan?
I'm sorry, I don't actually know.
Because what we're winding up with is less than one secure Class A parking bicycle spot for each unit with 65 Class A's and 88 units. Right, so we understand. Hey.
Yeah, you're right. Councillor Traynor?
I will bring forward the resolution to be approved for 1.63 spaces per unit.
All right. Councillor Barkwell?
So I'll be voting against this resolution.
Are you
Sorry,
seconding?
I'll second it,
Okay, thank you.
just to get it on the floor.
All right.
And then I'll speak to it. Yes. I'll be voting against this resolution. I think we should provide at least the one secure parking bicycle spot per rental unit, which I guess is in the bicycle master plan, bicycle trails master plan, and certainly substantially below what the zoning bylaw normally suggests. It's a pretty wild guess to figure out just exactly how many people are going to want bicycles, but I know that what is essential if you have a bicycle is secure storage, because bicycles get stolen from our secure storage at work, and if it's not very, very secure, you know, you can wave goodbye to your bicycle.
Okay. Councillor Patton, were you, just had your hand up to second, or?
That's
Yes.
all I was going to do, Madam Mayor.
All right. Any further discussion? Councillor Carlson?
I'll add that I agree with Councillor Barkwell, and I believe that we should be requiring more secure bicycle spaces for residents that are going to be living in this unit. And so I think that should have been discussed before.
Okay. Councillor Holmes, did you?
I think, I agree in principle, there should be one, certainly one per one secure bicycle parking spot per unit. I imagine there'll be a lot of people living in this building who won't have bikes. And in a way, it's the building owner's problem to deal with if if they're not able to provide everybody with a space who wants one. But, yeah, I don't know, it's kind of a tough one. If they could provide 88 secure units, then I would have no problem at all, but they're a little bit under that, so I'm not sure which way to go.
Councillor Traynor?
I think, considering that our cycling master plan is at odds with our current bylaws, until we revisit this and it's clear for the developer from the very beginning what's required, and it's, I will support this because I do think it is reasonable. But I do think that if we can get our bylaw updated to match our cycling plan, that will prevent this from happening again. Hopefully.
Councillor Barkle?
Councillor Van Alphen first.
Oh, thank you. Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I will be supporting this also. What's the alternative? You know, the alternative is outdoor storage in a container of some sort, which will take up parking space outside and/or green space. It's a secure parking lot underneath, so I'm sure it's going to be, you know, dealt with a key pass type idea to let you in and out, so it's relatively secure in the parking area. You know, I think it's the developers, the owner of the buildings, lack of planning or whatever you want to call it, but it's a detriment to them. So if I want to rent one of these units and I can't get secure bicycle storage, does that, you know, that's my decision. Do I want to rent there or don't I? So I think it's, you know, it's up to the owner of the building, and at this point, I think, you know, it's a good compromise. You know, I want to see some secure bicycle parking, but is every unit going to have a bicycle? There's 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom units. Some units may have 2, some may have 0. So it might work out in the end, so I would support it.
Okay. Councillor Barkle, yes.
Yeah, I understand what Councillor Holmes and Van Alphen say with, you know, the secure storage is part of the attractiveness of the unit, like just, I don't know, like the size of the windows or something. But then again, well, then why do we bother specifying any bicycle unit storage requirements? I think that the master plan requires at least 1, you know, so there's no confusion as in reference to Councillor Trainor's comment. You know, they were expecting to provide at least more than 1 secure unit. And so, I recognize it's a guess how many people are going to own bicycles, but I know if you own a bicycle, you know, a parkade is not secure. People just follow a car in and your bike's gone. Even, you know, my experience with talking with people in Penticton that have storage lockers in parkades like that, to keep a bicycle, they'll break into the storage locker. You know, you need to have a secure room and a lock on your bike in that secure room, and video cameras, and an alarm. But, so anyway, you got to draw the line somewhere, and I think for these reasons that 1 secure bicycle spot per unit is a bare minimum. I think that if there's a bachelor or a 1-bedroom place, there'll probably be 2 people in it. And if 1 person has a bicycle, they probably both have bicycles. And then the next unit, they might not have any. So.
All right, any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor of the variance permit? Opposed? It is not carried. Defeated. Okay, on to 8.2 zoning bylaw amendment for 26405 Garnet Valley Road, and this was public hearing number 2 we heard earlier today. Any questions of staff? I'd like to, okay, Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for clarification, the question was asked earlier, was expected 8 people
Correct.
living in the upstairs of this converted building? correct?
Yes, yes,
Thank
and you have the
So-
floor plans attached to your report.
Yes,
Mhm.
8, thank you.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In regards to when the farm worker accommodation is vacated, if they don't use it, I did read in the report that if it is vacant for more than 2 years, that the units must be decommissioned.
Correct.
My question is would that be district bylaws that would enforce that?
It would be both our bylaw, because we have included it as such, and the Agricultural Land Commission clearly would be following up on their restrictions. I would fully expect when the application comes back for the non-adhering residential use that that'll be one of the conditions. That certainly is where the ministry and the commission both pointed us when we were asking, what do we need to do? So I think our bylaw is consistent.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Great, so those answers the 2 questions that were posed to us by Ms. Norish. Any questions from council? All right. Could I have someone bring forward the zoning bylaw amendments to be read a 3rd time and adopted? Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That zoning bylaw amendment 26405 Garnet Valley Road bylaw number 2019-045 be read a 3rd time, and that zoning bylaw amendment 26405 Garnet Valley Road bylaw number 2019-045 be adopted.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Carlson. All in favor? Okay, that carries. Doug, see you later, alligator. So on to 8.3, zoning bylaw amendment 13607 for Mumble Avenue, bylaw number 2019-042. And again, this was the first public hearing of tonight, to be read a 3rd and, sorry, this is a bit different, to read a 3rd time and then held at 3rd reading until the subdivision servicing is complete and the subdivision plan is ready to be signed by the approving officer. Thank you. Any more questions or any questions of our Director of Development Services, Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for clarification, this new proposed lot, this subdivision, will be able to be accessed from Rumble and the lane and behind?
Correct.
Thank you.
No further questions? Councillor Van Elfen.
Put the recommendation on the table, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Traynor. Further discussion? Councillor Van Elfen.
Just comment, Madam Mayor. I just, I've driven past this property several times and 2 blocks from downtown.
I know, it's perfect.
Ideal location for this type of infill, and I hopefully this will spur on other people to, once they see what's going on here, maybe give other people the incentive to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor? And none opposed, so that one is carried. Thank you, Nicole. So we're now on 8.4, zoning bylaw amendment 12819 McClarty Place, bylaw number 2019-043. So we've spoken to this before? No, we haven't.
No.
Corey,
we have
this
not.
is a new one.
Correct.
Please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is both an official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment. So the proposal is to amend the official community plan map from low-density residential to park, and the zoning from RSD1 to PR1. This is essentially a housekeeping amendment, but of course, we are required to go through the standard bylaw readings and public hearing process. So we have proposed that this bylaw be put forward to public hearing on March the 9th.
March the 9th, okay. Does anyone have questions for Corey? Councillor Traynor.
I was just wondering, do you know why the construction company transferred the land to the district? It looks like the district paid for it.
Yes, it's not altogether clear, and I didn't dig back in to the process. It was a case of moving forward. How do we fix the situation and move on? Unfortunately, yeah, sometimes it's not altogether clear.
So it will just be officially zoned park?
Correct.
And then just remain as is? Like, is
Correct.
it maintained right now, or?
I don't know what the long-range plan is in terms of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. I'm sorry, because I didn't work on this file personally. I didn't dig into those kind of details.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the OCP amendment is simply to designate it as a park?
As park designation, official
Yes.
community plan
Thank you.
designation of park, yes.
Okay.
That's different than designated on a
Yes.
subdivision plan.
Yes, you're up. Thank you for reminding me of that. That
No problem.
means quite a bit more.
Yes.
If there are no other questions, could I have someone bring forward the proposed recommendations? Councillor Van Elfen?
As presented, Madam Mayor.
All right. So both the OCP bylaw amendment and the zoning amendment will be on March the 9th?
Correct.
Okay. Councillor Barclay, you're seconding? Thank you.
Comment too?
Okay, please.
I want to commend staff for bringing this forward and getting this in order. I remember when this parcel came up for discussion about 6 years ago, and it was suggested as a parcel we might sell, and then council realized, whoa, that's a park, we can't be selling that. And then the discussion was about these various lots that we have that are properly park, and that the paperwork to designate them as parks has never been done, and finally we got some new staff and they're attending to it, so great, thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? All those in favor? None opposed. This is mine. 8.5, road closure and removal of highway dedication at 19609 Matsu Drive.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is to get the bylaw for the road closure dedication and highway dedication removal at 19609, near 19609 Matsu Drive. It was first brought to council to consider the disposition of that land, as the property itself is adjacent to property owners, or the road dedication is adjacent and on property owners' property and not usable for the public. So council did direct staff to move forward with disposition of the land. The three adjacent property owners have prepared their own survey plans. This particular report is simply to put the road closure forward and provide notification to the public of the closure and sale of this particular piece of property.
Thank you. Any questions of our corporate officer? All right. Could I have someone bring forward that resolution, please? Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The road closure and removal of highway dedication 19609 Matsu Drive by lot 219. Did I get that right?
Yeah, 035.
035.
Be introduced.
Be introduced, please.
Be introduced and read a first, second, and third time. And that purchase sale agreements for the consolidation of portions of the closed road with the adjacent property owners be completed prior to adoption of bylaw number 2019-035.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Thank you. I just have a question. This will be coming back to us for adoption?
Correct,
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
So tonight, it's just introduction, read first, second, and third time.
Correct.
Okay. No further discussion? Okay, Counselor Van Alphen? No. All in favor? And none opposed. Okay. Now that we have the development things out of the way, pretty much, time for public comment. Again, 15 minutes maximum. And please keep your comments to, because this isn't a public hearing, to 2 minutes per speaker. As you begin, or before you begin your presentation, if you could state your name and address for the record. Mr. Stathers.
Hello, everyone. Dave Stather, school trustee, School District 67, 6360 Victoria Road South. The newly proposed cannabis store you're going to be talking about in a minute or two is, well, it's about student safety. Reducing access to a drug about 200 meters away from 800 students at the middle school and the high school. The position of the school board is the same as the last 2 times I was here. It's too close, much too close. And the hours are too long, 14-hour days, 7 days a week, gives too much access. How will underage students get access to marijuana at the store? We all know they ask other people to boot for them. Just what's done at liquor stores. The board is asking you to formally revisit your buffer zone policy of 50 meters, please. I can practically spit that far. It's not very far. It, of course, is a function of a town that the schools were built a long time ago, and they remain in the downtown core near all these businesses. The board would prefer cannabis to be on the outskirts of town, similar to the first store application near IGA. Personally, as a citizen, I now see 4 liquor stores, 4 cannabis stores in Summerland, and my fellow school trustee, Linda Van Alphen, says, well, that's simply, quote, overkill, unquote. 1/3 as well of our citizens are seniors. So if you add up the students and the seniors, about half the population are vulnerable people. We're also creating, if you think about it, a cannabis central hub in the downtown area. 3 cannabis stores in about a block and a half. Is that what you want? What does that do to our reputation for this town? Councilors, Mayor, please say no to this cannabis store. Say yes to rethinking the buffer zone policy zone. And this isn't really about taxes and money again. This is about what's best for people, half the population, seniors and students. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, my name is Rick Jonkus, or Richard, if you want to be official. My wife Gail and I currently own Martin's Flowers, which has been in Summerland for 14 years. We're currently in the location where this application by Mojo Cannabis for taking over our property, because our business has grown over 14 years from a small 700 square foot location to the point where we can't hire enough help at our busy times to service the community. And that's a good thing for Summerland. Now, this gentleman, I'm sorry, I do not know him, and I would not be against him. But this idea of a cannabis store being some big obstacle to any other retail outlet that sells beer, wine, cigarettes right across the street from the high school at the Shell station, why on earth would anybody think that a cannabis store would operate any differently? It's a legal thing. To put the submission through to City Council, which I have absolutely nothing to do with, cost the company that's proposing the development the better part of $20,000. Now, they're obviously not going to put kids in to manage their cannabis store, and the last I heard, I'm not experienced in cannabis, believe me, I don't even know how much a gram is, but I was talking to a man that said the kids are certainly not going to be buying cannabis at $80 a gram. And if you think your kids are going to have the spending money like that, then we're in a different world. All I want to say, folks, is my wife and I have owned Martin Splatters for 14 years here in Summerland and 18 years prior in Penticton. We want to retire, and we want to retire with what we've developed over those 18 years, which is a good, viable business, and we have paid plenty taxes with our rent in the center. And I can't see one single thing that a cannabis store would affect the life or the quality and the seniors. They're not gullible idiots. I'm a senior. I'm 73 years old, sir. And you're getting close to me, too. Thank you very much. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else care to comment on this matter or any of the other items you see on the monitor? All right. So, before us now is 10.1, LCRB referral for an application for a non-medical cannabis retail store at Unit 3, 13604 Victoria Road North. Corey,
Thank you,
keeping
Madam
busy
Mayor.
tonight.
Yes. A referral was received from the LCRB on December 5th, 2019, for an application for a non-medical cannabis retail store to be located in number 3, 13604 Victoria Road North. Of course, the LCRB is again requesting the District of Summerland to consider the application and provide our comments. Staff have prepared the report that is before you, consistent with the non-medical cannabis retail store license application policy that was adopted by Council in November 2018. So the property is located in the downtown core commercial area and is adjacent to other commercial properties. We don't anticipate there'll be any negative impact on the community in this particular commercial area. Council did provide the opportunity to residents to provide their views on the license application in the way described in the policy, and we have not received any response to date, have not received any comments. So I believe it's a very lengthy resolution that is before you, so I won't read it, but essentially we'd like to provide your comments to the province.
Thank you. Okay, Council, questions on this application? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know that we've talked about this on many occasions. It's a free enterprise. If the business makes it, the business makes it. One of the things that I asked of our last CAO was about exclusion zones. And how were those exclusion zones looked at, and how did we come up with 50 meters as an exclusion zone? And I guess my question is 50 meters maybe too small of exclusion zone? I realize that our district is quite unique, where the schools, everything is situated very close. So, and that was probably taken into account back in the day when our previous CEO looked at the zoning. But I'm not wondering if there's not an opportunity that we do just revisit. And our Anthony, our CAO, has had a lot of work in Penticton in regards to the cannabis stores there, and maybe might be able to shed a different light on exclusion zones when it comes to the retail stores. Has nothing to do with the cannabis, has nothing to do with the sale of the cannabis. I'm just wondering in regards to the exclusion zones from schools, daycares, well, not daycares, but schools, and see if there's maybe there's an opportunity or something that we missed back when we first talked about that at 50 meters.
Would you like to respond?
Yeah, through the chair, Your Worship, if there's direction for staff to relook at that policy, we'd certainly need council's direction on that. I think every community is a little different. Penticton's very different to Summerland in terms of the layout and geography. The commercial areas, a lot of community engagement was involved in the development of the policies in Penticton, which created the 200-metre buffers between schools, 300-metre buffer, 700 to 800-metre buffer between stores. So the geography certainly dictated that, as well as the community engagement. And I'm not familiar with the process that was developed to create the current policy in Summerland, but if there is direction from council to reassess that policy, then we'll certainly look at that and bring council back some options. But it should definitely involve some community engagement if it hasn't already.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just one second, Councillor Holmes. So would you be willing to just set that aside until we have the discussion about what's before us tonight? It could still be included tonight, but...
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. I think the reality in Summerland is we only have 2 retail areas, downtown and down by the IGA Mall. And if you had a 100-meter or whatever exclusion zone downtown, basically you'd be saying you can't have any kind of cannabis stores downtown at all, which would mean you could only have one place you could put it, which would mean you could only have one cannabis store in the community. That's the one that's open right now. So you're creating a monopoly situation. I think that's the reality of what we're dealing with, unless you wanted to start putting retail stores into industrial areas, which is a separate discussion. So I think that's what we're faced with. My question is, in terms of buffer zones, do we have a buffer zone anywhere in our bylaws for alcohol sales? Do we know? Or is there any provincial laws for that?
No.
None? None at all?
The provincial province have, I believe it's a 1 kilometre boundary between liquor stores.
Retail liquor.
That's provincial regulation.
But nothing from schools? There's no buffer?
I don't believe so.
No.
Councillor Barkwell?
Yes, I'm not sure how this discussion fits right now. I mean, should we get the motion on the floor so that we can discuss the motion? Should we just simply be asking questions of staff at this point before they get into this philosophical discussion? Or 'cause
Well, that's why I asked Councillor Patton if he would just set that aside for a moment. And then Councillor Holmes did have a question about exclusionary zones for liquor stores. But if you'd like to bring that, and unless there are, at this particular moment, questions of Corey. Okay, I would ask that you bring that.
Yeah, I'd like to bring the motion forward as written in the agenda.
What, you don't want to read the book?
A little bit long.
And do I have a
Item
seconder?
10.1.
Thank you, Councillor Traynor. Okay, Councillor Barkwell.
You know, it's interesting that there's 2 elected bodies, the school board and the council, and there's such different opinions on those 2 bodies that are people just selected from the community. personally, I feel that our council has a good understanding of the community's feeling on marijuana. There's no limits for distances for alcohol or tobacco. This is one more thing. This is all being said before. Sure, there's a lot of stores, but we don't, it's a free market. I think that the invisible hand of the market will decide just how many of those stores, alcohol and cannabis, will survive. And I think others see it as same as me here, that if there's a bootlegging to be done with cannabis or liquor, it doesn't matter if that store is around the corner and out of sight and 200 meters, or in this location, or 250 meters and this is 200 meters, it's still going to happen. The proximity isn't going to affect the amount of bootlegging per se. So and to answer Councillor Patton's question, this council, or most of this council who were on the previous council, had the discussion previously on what before the cannabis was legalized, as did other communities. Staff in Penticton, I believe, recommended that there be no cannabis stores on Main Street, and council didn't like that suggestion and said, hey, they're quality stores, we'll allow it on Main Street. So everybody has their own opinions, and council here in Summerland has said that we don't see a problem, and that's why we're where we are now.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with everything Councillor Barkwell says. I also recognize that obviously the school board does still have a concern about this, and I think we should acknowledge that. And perhaps the next time we have a joint meeting with the school board, this topic should go on the agenda for us to really discuss, because I would certainly like to better understand collectively the school board's thinking, and I think it'd be a worthwhile discussion for us to have.
All right. I just wanted to say, last year, the District of Summerland, through the Summerland Community Healthy Communities Initiative, hosted with the School District 67 at Center Stage, Interior Health, and a number of physicians. The cannabis one at least included the RCMP as well. And we had discussions about both cannabis one night and vaping the second night. And it was out of the out of the cannabis discussion that it became clear that there was a lot of concern about vaping. And as it turns out, well, we've all heard and read the news that vaping is of more detriment health-wise to our youth than cannabis use at this point, because it's kind of surreptitious and they can get it easier, and it's flavored so that they like to use it for those purposes. I agree with Councillor Holmes in that perhaps we could get a better understanding from School District 67 trustees on this matter. I'm also thinking that given the outcome of those two sessions, that maybe, not sure how this would work, but maybe there could be some work done on highlighting the dangers of vaping use by our youth. Maybe a joint thing with Interior Health and School District 67 and the District of Summerland. However, that doesn't speak to really what we're talking about tonight. And although I hear what you're saying, I also was part of the work done around the policy as they were established. And I think that it would be unfair of us to not, to single this one out as one that is too close to the schools. Councillor Van Alphen and Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know, I recall years ago when Peacock's Perch cold beer and wine store was being constructed, it had to be X amount of distance from the high school, middle school fields. And so I don't know who dictated that, if that was the Liquor Control Board at the time.
Yes, it would have been.
It would have been, so like, you know, it's no further away than what we're looking at today, like the cannabis shop. I mean, 3-4 more steps, you've got the liquor store in the same plaza. I appreciate Councillor Holmes' comment about in the future, maybe we should have some dialogue, a joint meeting with the school district, and this should be definitely on the agenda for a conversation. But I strongly, as Councillor Patton said earlier, I strongly believe in a free enterprise system. Are 4 cannabis stores going to survive, or 6 cannabis stores, 10, 5 gas stations, 4 liquor stores, like it's $2 stores? It's not up to me to decide who makes it and who doesn't make it in a free enterprise society. So I would support this cannabis store. At this point in time, I don't see a problem. I too attended those forums from Interior Health. And the doctors that spoke about even young people and cannabis use and, how it affects the brain, the early development, and blah, 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 is very interesting and educational. But alcohol is just as big a detriment to our youth. And we seem to have those stores, and that seems to be okay. So cannabis is legal. It's not up to me to regulate it, it's up to the law enforcement to regulate it. So I will be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes?
Well, yes, thank you. I'm a little off topic, but since you brought it up. Having been around probably more teenagers than I could possibly ever imagine the last 8 years or so, I can tell you absolutely vaping is a big issue, is a big problem. It's what I've had to deal with most in when dealing with teenagers, and it is weird stuff. And I don't know if we could have a buffer zone around schools for selling vaping products or not, but it should all be part of the same conversation. I think alcohol, vaping, cigarettes, and cannabis, it's all kind of the same sort of issues, really. So.
Councillor Traynor?
I understand where the school board is coming from, because I think as educators it's probably very frustrating to try to teach students healthy habits, and then like one thing after another comes along, whether it's marijuana or now it's vaping, and so I get it, like it's frustrating and you want to do everything you can to protect your kids, but I think at the end of the day it starts with education, because they're going to get it no matter what, and they're going to they look to their adults, they look to their teachers, they look to their peers, and I think they need to, there's always temptations, there's always going to be temptations in their life, and they need to learn to make decisions for themselves and have information and the ability to say, okay, I don't want to do that with my life. So I don't think of having a store close by is really going to, or farther away is really going to solve the problem. The temptation is still going to be there, store is still going to be there, whether it's 50 meters or 100 meters or 200 meters. They got to have the education to make those decisions for themselves. So I will be supporting this, but I do think maybe at some point, I don't know how many more of these cannabis applications are going to come forward, but if they continue to come forward, we might want to at some point have a discussion of capping it, because we have 4 liquor stores in town, and I think that's matched with 4 cannabis stores right now is where we're at, possibly, if this one's approved tonight. So I think at some point we might want to discuss a cap, but that's just my thought on it.
I have a question of Councillors Holm and Trainer. You both sit on the junior council or participate in that. Has there been any discussion at the junior council, which is in the high school, about any of this? I'm just curious.
Not really, no.
I can recall, I think there was a brief discussion where the students said it wasn't really a thing, like they weren't, at least the ones on the city, or on the student council weren't, it wasn't an issue that was important to them. They were concerned about environmental things.
Recreation.
That's what I recall, that they didn't really.
Recreation.
Yeah, they didn't really have an interest in it.
Okay. Just wondering. Thank you. Are there any other discussion on this? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank my colleagues. I came in on the very end of when this had all happened, and Councillor Holmes and Barkwell make good points. Actually, they all make good points. I do feel, though, that as you have indicated, Madam Mayor, that our next meeting with the school board would be an opportune time to maybe discuss this a little bit more holistically, to see, as Councillor Trainer talked about capping, maybe there's some other venues we can look at. But yeah, I won't be pressing this any farther. I think our staff have enough on their plates right now that I don't think me having them chase exclusion zones that probably would not be supported is something that I want to do with staff time. So thank you for indulging me.
No. Thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
Just a, excuse me, a point of clarification. Earlier, speaker from the audience spoke about whether the effect of the store would be limited because the prices are so high. He threw out $80 a gram. I think it's more like $8 and up, not $80 a gram, but the difference is still there. That's still a very valid point. On the street, my friends tell me that it's less than $2 a gram if you buy any volume. and in the retail locations, and so where are the kids going to go, you know? His point is valid, even if he was a little bit out on the pricing.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we've got it on the floor. I will call a question. All in favor? And none opposed. All right, so when we have our school district meeting, yeah. Okay, thank you. Oh, that is easy. Now, on to 11.1, notice of motion, noxious odors produced by the growing of cannabis. And I will turn this over to Councillor Barkwell, who has brought this forward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's kind of self-evident. We're all, or should be, aware of the concern in that area. And the Agricultural Land Commission has tossed the ball back in the court of the municipalities to regulate those aspects, and so I'd like to see what we can do.
All right. Would you like to?
So I'll move that motion.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Holmes? Okay, discussion. Is there any discussion? Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Maybe our Director of Development Services would know this. If we were to impose a bylaw that was more restrictive than the federal government's bylaw in regards to filtration, we could do. I don't think there's anything stopping us being more restrictive in that regard based on the type of filtering systems. I think it's open to us.
I have not researched it, but generally speaking, you know, if we think about how federal and provincial authorities work, generally they would supersede us, but whether there is something very specific, I know their standards are very, very detailed, and I haven't read them in full for a considerable length of time. When they first came out, it was overwhelming how strict their standards were. For us to start second-guessing or interpreting those, I think would absorb quite a lot of resources. And then whether we were able to keep up and stay current with them. As you know, we're having a hard time keeping up with our provincial regulations. So I'm hesitant, but I don't know the answer.
If I may, one more. The only reason I ask is it seems that depending on the mechanical engineer and the type of system that he thinks is the best is what seems to get installed. And I know that there is one in Lake Country that is quite efficient, and there's some in Kelowna that are not so efficient as far as getting rid of the smells. So I'm not wondering if it's more based on the mechanical engineering of it, and if that's the case, then perhaps there's an opportunity for us to raise the bar in regards to filtration on these.
Yeah, we would have to do some research to find out what our authority was in that regard.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, thank you to, I don't know, Councillor Barkwell perhaps, or to whoever. Would this research include looking at the Right to Farm Act and what's considered acceptable farm practices for cannabis? And I put this in the context when I don't know if it was the last ALC meeting or the one before that up in Kelowna, this came up, and they hadn't really, and their answer was they hadn't really figured that out yet, what an acceptable farm practice for cannabis is. So I don't know if they have yet, or where we're at, so where they're at.
Councillor Barkwell?
Yes, Councillor Holmes raises a definite consideration. I'm intimately familiar with the Right to Farm Act and the Farm Industry Review Board, and how they make their decisions, and it is a big question mark. There is no, their decisions are based on normal farm practice. So you can imagine that's based on historic farm practices. Well, there is no historic farm practice for cannabis, so they will be in a tough situation to make a determination. But from what I've seen, they generally try to find ways to say if creating noise, odor, or dust doesn't have a long traditional history, then you've got to find ways to reduce them. And I really strongly suspect that they will come out. There will not be any carte blanche, do what you want, make as much smell as you want from the Farm Industry Review Board, and then 5 years from now when it finally gets to that point.
I know that at RDOS last Thursday, we had a bit of a discussion. We were talking about bylaw for micro cannabis operations, and this whole thing came up again, the odor issue. And if I recall correctly, it was pretty much that's something that is currently regulated by a senior level of government, and that was the that's where the regulation lay, and it's also where the enforcement lay, although nobody really seemed to know how that enforcement might look. So that's pretty much how it was left. Is that along the lines of what you understood, Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, the discussion was really in particular to farmland where cannabis is being grown. That's borders residential areas, really, and the concern about odor there, and there was discussion on the RDOS to increase the setbacks from 15 meters to 30 or 50 meters, but it was kind of determined that increasing the setbacks won't do anything for odor. You depends which way the wind's blowing. You could be, 500 meters away, you'd smell it, right? So, so the setbacks, you know, it didn't really, nothing happened with it. So it's pretty much accepted that increasing setbacks it does nothing for odor control. It has to be what scrubbers you have or what the technology that's used.
Yeah. Councillor Barklow?
Yeah, if you read bulletin number 4 from the Agricultural Land Commission from last May, was it? You know, it's pretty clear they're handing it over to local government to have their own regulations and initiatives, so.
Councillor Barklow, or Holmes, and then Councillor Van Elfen.
I think, you know, I support some research being done and seeing what we can do, and if it comes back that there's not really much we can do, then I think we need to have a discussion about do we want grow-ups in our agricultural land or not? You know, I think, and if they're leaving it to local governments to decide, I guess we can decide that. But I think we need to do that research first. So.
The research before working on a bylaw is what you're suggesting? Yeah. Councillor Barklow?
Councillor, did you have something?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Councillor Van Elfen. Thank you for keeping me on task.
But so local government, we could come up with a bylaw, but then there's the right to farm legislation trump that bylaw. Probably. I'm just thinking, you know, and I don't disagree with what we're saying here, but, you know, how restrictive can it be if we decide as a municipality that we're going to restrict cannabis growing operations on agricultural land, and Penticton doesn't, or Peachland doesn't? You know, are we cutting our own throat with a potential farm use we're missing out on? You know, there's right now, I guess it is left to a senior level of government to monitor the noxious odors from this. Like, I'm not against looking into it, but I still think it's a senior government, like as you said, Madam Mayor, what the RDOS discussed earlier, that they're the ones monitoring it. Do they have enough staff to deal with all the complaints that may arise? That we don't know yet. And I think that's going to be the bigger question in the future. You know, some people have put in state-of-the-art scrubbers. Like, even after doing research, how do I know which scrubber is the most effective and which isn't? And I think the infancy of this whole new farming operation is going to be trial and error for a while, until they get the right systems in place that work for their situation. And some situations are going to be different than others, you know, on how they grow it and how they vent it and all that type of thing. But I'm not against it, looking into it, but I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time at it to find out that senior government is responsible for it and the ALC trumps all local bylaws.
Yes, Councillor Barklow.
Yeah, I think you'll find that if the FIRB ever does come out with a decision on the Right to Farm Act, that there would have to be proper odor control. There is, if you were interested, you could do, as Councillor Patton has said, have a look at the operation in Lake Country and compare it to ones that are not operating that way. And that will be held out as the standard. And my experience in speaking to someone who's been there says you can't smell anything outside. You open the door, it just about knocks you over. And so we know it can be done and dealt with. And so I think we should make the effort to try and meet that standard. There obviously isn't, well, I can't say, I don't know what sort of federal standards on odor control there is, but it's not normally their kind of, their area.
I just want to ask you, Councillor Barkwell, do you want to, this is on the floor and it's been seconded, so we can vote on this. But I wanted to ask you if you would consider what Councillor Holmes has suggested and Councillor Van Elfen as well about changing this so it's not coming back with recommendations for a bylaw, but to do the research into the existing regulations that are in place by the federal government, maybe the provincial government as well, and then bringing that information back so that we as a council could determine if we wanted to direct staff to, in fact, move forward with recommendations for a bylaw.
I think the discussion has just raised up the sort of questions that staff would, as a matter of course, look into. And then if the answer they have is that there's nothing you can do and there's no bylaw, then that's an answer to the resolution. So I don't see any point in changing it. They'll do the research and they'll answer these questions that we've raised and come back with some kind of recommendation.
Okay. So any further discussion on the bylaw that's on the floor now? Motion. Oh, the motion, yes, thank you, not the bylaw. I'm way ahead of so. Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor? Okay.
One comment? Okay.
Sure.
I'm hoping, for the sake of staff, that there's a few phone calls that could be made, and the other people in other communities have already answered some of these questions and saved some time.
Yes. And if you report back to us that you don't have recommendations for a bylaw, then that's good too. It's just that we would like you to explore that. Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Information items. There are only 4 items of correspondence, I think. No, 3 items of correspondence. Does anybody want to bring one or more of those forward?
Oh, yeah.
Building stats are looking great. Could I have someone bring forward the correspondence for information, please? Councillor Van Elfen and Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Okay, on to councillor reports. Starting with Councillor Carlson. So glad to see her back.
I was here for most of last one, too.
I know you were.
I missed council report. My goodness. I don't know. My baby is 5 weeks old. He sleeps a lot, and it's a lot of fun. Next week, I will go to library board meeting, strategic planning session, so I will have a little bit more to update at our next meeting. I think that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Patton?
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. KVR meeting is February 20th, so I don't have anything to report as part of the liaison with KVR. Did attend Derek Chudik's funeral on Saturday. Very well attended. Very sad affair, as all funerals are. But it was nice to see the amount of staff that were there, and council, of course, that attended. It was. Other than that, I have nothing. Thank you.
That's good. Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended our first inaugural planning committee meeting with Councillor Patton, and yourself, Madam Mayor, and our CEO. It was very well attended, and I was really impressed on the way, we've got a chairperson and a vice chairperson already, so it's going to be, I think it's going to be a real productive group, and I'm looking forward to how it all starts to play out. I was really impressed with the recognition given today to the 3 lifeguards at our aquatic center. It is really nice to know that I go there 3 days a week. It's really nice to know if I drop, that things there might be success. It's keeping me around. And I too, I think I'll leave it at that, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Traynor?
I attended an RDOS meeting
Thank
on
you.
your behalf, not last week, but the week before. And I also attended Derek Judik's funeral, which was really nice. There was a lot of people there, so he must have been very well liked. So it was a really good ceremony to remember him or honor him. And that's all that I have.
Thank you. And Councillor... Councillor Barkwell, and then Councillor Holmes.
No.
Councillor Barkwell.
Nothing to report, unless you care that I was sick for 6 days. Ebola or something, it felt like.
Aw. Well, from what I've heard, 6 days isn't bad to be sick, this nasty thing. Councillor Holmes.
I don't really have anything either.
What?
Ah, except for his RDOS report,
Yeah.
don't forget to read that.
I feel like it's been months, Doug.
Well,
Haven't
yeah,
heard
but
anything.
you haven't been around.
Yes. Alrighty. Mary Ann, okay, thank you for sticking through this with us. Could I have someone bring forward adjournment of the meeting, please? Councillor Van Elfen and Carlson, all in favor? Thank you.